about a month since my last garden tour, so I thought I'd take you on another updated garden tour to see how everything's been growing over spring. We are about 2 weeks away from summer and we've had a mild spring. It's been pretty cool here. Usually we have a bit warmer weather, but we've got La Nina happening at the moment, which means we've got cooler daytime temperatures, warmer nighttime temperatures, and a bit more rain than usual. So with the heat that we've been having over the last couple of weeks, finally feels like spring. The garden's just burst and it's really thriving. So let's go have a look and see how much it's changed over this time. Let's start with this end. This is the food forest. There's a lot of grass in here, so we won't go through there, but that's doing pretty well. A lot of my brassicas are really starting to come to the end of their life. They're starting to bolt, but I am still harvesting them and they are still providing us with food. You can see that one there isn't going to do much, and I am trying to cover them with their leaves just to protect them from the sun. But that in there is a little Romanesco. Love Romanescos. And I've got more in here. This one I think is a purple cauliflower. Starting to get the purple tinge to it, but we've got quite a few in here. Another one with their sun hat on. Another purple one. I think that's just a white one covered in snail poop, but it's there. And some broccoli that I need to harvest today, and these cabbages, they are huge. I'm going to hopefully make some sauerkraut with these. They're not too far off. They've still got a little bit of give in there, but they are starting to firm up. I've got some purple cabbages. This is my Chinese broccoli or kale, so they grow these shoots up. I'll show you another one that's just about ready to be harvested at the back here. They grow these thick stems and these little florets that you harvest. You use the leaves as well. Really good in stir fries. Got a heap of sprouting broccoli, some more purple cabbages, and in here I've also got my garlic chives, my perennial leeks, my perennial onions, and my zucchinis. I had about 40 eaten by slugs. About 8 survived, in amongst my dahlias as well. And they're starting to fruit, which is super exciting. A little bit of beetroot here as well. And yeah, I think I'm getting fruit on my zucchinis. They are certainly starting to flower. We've got a yellow or golden one here, and this one here is Black Beauty. These here are True Blood beetroot, so really dark leaves. Nice big bulbs on those as well. But yeah, that's this area. And the asparagus and the cane fruit up the back, and some more dahlias here, so that should look really pretty once it's flowering. The hothouse is open because it's going to be quite a warm day. Haven't got too many seedlings in here. Most is planted now, but my succession of zucchini to replace the ones that got eaten, some pigeon peas, some loofahs, artichokes, things that really like the heat. Some basil, or some successive basil, a few flowers, some melons, some pumpkins over here, some seedling dahlias, and yeah, I've got some more zucchinis planted in here and a few other bits and pieces, some flowers and stuff in there, and some corn. I've had issues with the rats eating my corn seeds, but I have got corn planted in there. Hopefully they'll leave that alone. I had 200 seeds go missing from the rats, which is always fun. And this area here is my market garden. Last time I showed you this, it was fairly empty and also full of weeds, but it's had a nice layer of compost and mulch, and it is really doing well. I think these here are early Jersey Wakefield cabbages, which are the long cone-shaped cabbages. They only grow to about 1 kilo each, and they grow really quickly and they're nice and sweet. I think this here is my purple sprouting broccoli. I've got some more purple cabbages, carrots and leeks in between this area. Some more of that Chinese kale. You can see how fat this stalk is on this one. So really nice and tender. These here are mangel wurzels. They're kind of like a beetroot. Really big bulbs on them. They can get a couple of kilos each. You can eat the leaves as well, kind of like spinach or chard. You can see I've got a heap of butterflies, white butterflies around at the moment. So this will be the last of the brassicas. I've got lots of kale in there, lots of onions. Over here are the carrots that didn't get eaten by slugs. Had a lot of issues there. I've interplanted with some capsicums. Got some snow peas at the back there, some flowers, lots of sunflowers and dahlias and bells of Ireland. This huge sunflower here, that grew from seed from last year that the birds dropped for me there in an inconvenient spot, but I didn't have the heart to pull it out, and it's just about to flower. The last of my turnips are here. I probably won't bother growing these again in summer, or this summer, because they're kind of like a cool climate. Or I find I eat them more in cool climates rather than the heat. I'm not going to be making any soups anytime soon. Some tatsoi, which can kind of be used like bok choy. Heaps of onions are starting to bulb up and really get some growth on. My leeks and some more of my brassicas. Let's go have a look at those. I've got some Brussels sprouts here. First time growing Brussels sprouts successfully, so I'm really looking forward to those. Some purple sprouting broccoli. These have been really nice and tender and delicious. I've got, I think that's another Romanesco, maybe a purple cauliflower. The lighting's a bit bad there because of the shadow, the position of the sun. But another Romanesco in there. I think they might be purple Brussels sprouts. I'm not entirely sure. It could just be a purple cabbage bolting, but pretty sure Brussels sprouts. Another couple of Brussels sprouts there too. A couple more cabbages, and my second lot of broad beans. I don't usually plant a second lot, but I had heaps of seeds, so I thought, why not? The birds decimated my first crop, so I'm really grateful that I actually did this. I'll show you the damage they did down the bottom. But the birds seem to have gone now. The rosellas and the king parrots, they're the ones who like to eat these. They seem to have gone now, so hopefully they'll no one else will touch my broad beans and I'll get a bit of a harvest from them. Over here I have my 2 raised beds, and these have been cleared out a bit. I had a heap of brassicas in here, and there are still a couple of cabbages and sprouting broccoli, but in here I planted, let's move away from my shadow, in here I planted my corn and some watermelons to act as my squash. So the 3 sisters is what I'm trying to achieve. Trying to grow beans up my corn, but I think the slugs have been eating the beans as they emerge, but there are a couple of randoms, so I can plant another round, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and the watermelons will act as a ground cover, kind of like a living mulch, even though I've got a nice thick layer of compost and mulch on top. The corn will act as a support for the beans impart nitrogen. Yeah, so it's a nice little system there. In here I've got a lot of my eggplants, a couple that I overwintered, so that was an overwintered one. These ones I grew from seed this year. I've got a little bit more Chinese kale in here that's been producing really well. A couple more leeks, some spinach, some coriander that's starting to bolt because it's in full sun, and a heap more eggplants, and these are cucamelons that I'm going to grow as a living ground cover here too. Hopefully that works. They are really delicious little cucumbers that are sour and crunchy and the size of a grape. And then over here, it's just being watered at the moment because it's going to be another hot day today. It's going to be about 31 degrees, but I've got a mix of flowers in here and edibles. I've got a couple of fruit trees. I've got the blood orange, which we just picked the last of the fruit yesterday, and an apricot tree, and then a heap of calendula. I've got poppies, chives, and their beautiful flowers. The bees love these. Garlic, my lilies, of course. We're gonna get watered. a little bit of lettuce down here, some more brassicas. So I really enjoy this wild patch. It's the microclimate, subtropical microclimate in here because we've got the concrete tank. It holds the heat, and yeah, we find that we can grow frost sensitive things here like bananas. And we're in a cool temperate climate. Over there is Mount Baw. It receives snow for about 5 or 6 months of the year, which is not common here in Australia. You don't often get snow-capped mountains, but we happen to look out on one of the 5 or 6 that there are in Australia. This here is my herb bed. It's doing really well. Just the standard herbs: mint, oregano, rosemary, thyme, sage, and we've harvested a bit of our garlic. This is not even half, I don't think, but this is the first variety to come out. It's called a rocambole, purple rocambole. I've got quite a few trays, as you can see. This will get hung up probably when it rains in a few days, when we can't really do anything else, but not a bad size, certainly not as big as last year, but I changed the beds that I grew them in, so that certainly impacted them. The soil wasn't as nice as the market garden bed, which I just showed you. That's where I grew them last year, but still a decent size. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But yeah, not as big as last year. That's okay. Next year we can improve. This here is the rhubarb bed, and the rhubarb's gone nuts. So many stalks in there. Love growing rhubarb. And over here are a couple of geese. These are our goslings. They're about 5 weeks old now, and they're keeping this patch of grass down for us while we raise them, and then they'll go out into one of the orchards or just above the veggie patch. But let's go look at the veggie patch and how it's coming along. The 2 boxes there, they could be doing better, but it's not bad. Some artichokes. I've left the rest on now to go to seed. Love the flower, and so do the bees. This area is starting to fill up nicely with more globe artichokes and a few natives, some waratahs, banksia, some gladioles that I missed, and some sages, mainly for the bees. So this area is breaking up the area between that patch and that patch. They're about 300 square meters each, and this area is basically flowers and herbs for the bees. The cover crop here is doing fantastic. It's about to get chopped, and then I can plant my pumpkins in there. So this will be pumpkins, melons, corn, things I only have to harvest once. I've got a fruit tree there. I've got a black peach. Looking forward to the day that produces. And then my potatoes down there, they need another layer of straw. But let's go walk through this patch and see how it's growing. Got lots of comfrey on this bank to hold it together, and it also provides, whoa, nearly fell over, provides mulch and a compost accelerator. Beautiful oregano there, love the colour of that. It's a ground cover. Let's walk through here. This is bed number 1. So some of my snow peas survived the rats this year. Down here I will be planting beans very shortly. I've got a heap of leeks here. My alpines are going nuts, and so are the sugar beets. So this was going to be used as a sugar substitute in brewing. I'm not sure if we have enough, but we'll give it a go. They're really starting to bulk up. You can see this one here is actually pushing the soil up. But you can see how big that root is in there. Really cool. Some purple celery down there. Got some tomatoes that need to be staked up again, falling over. But these were planted early October, which is super early here. Usually it is the beginning of November that you plant your tomatoes, but I felt like it was going to be no more frosts, and I was right, so I was really happy that paid off. A couple of random brassicas, and yeah, the rest of the sugar beets. Now to this bed, it's been planted out with tomatoes. Got a couple more Brussels sprouts there. I started working on pulling out my broad beans, but here you can see the damage the birds did. They came in and tried to get all my beans out, which they do every year, but I felt they did a bit more damage this year. I can still harvest some of them. This one's got no damage on it, so they're going to be popped in the freezer for winter soups. And the tomatoes certainly do need staking. We're struggling a bit. More Brussels sprouts. Pop through here. This is some more of my garlic. This is the Italian purple. So that will be harvested in about 4 weeks. It hasn't escaped up yet. Last year it escaped and I didn't think this was escaping garlic. So we'll see, we'll keep our eye on it because we are starting to get leaf growth and we want to harvest these when they get to about 40 to 50% leaf growth. I'm also getting side shoots again this year. I think that's got to do with the weather and the hot and cold fluctuations. But yeah, nothing I can do about that. So I'm not really sure why it's not escaping. I'm pretty sure last year I escaped. I wasn't expecting it to escape, but it did escape. This year, I'm wondering if it will because we're getting the leaf growth, the leaf death, but no escape. So anyway, we'll see. That's a mystery, but it seems to be bulbing up quite nicely. Not worried about that. This is where my rock and bowl was. Planted tomatoes in there. And I've got my first dahlia come out, which is really fun. This is always an early one. It's one I grew from seed last year. First to produce flowers and very prolific. Got more dahlias up here. Lavender for the bees because the beehive is just up there. So the market garden is behind that fence. Not sure if you can see it. In here, we're planting corn. I'm trying to direct sow it. In this area, if it doesn't work, I've got the ones in the hothouse I'm trying to grow from seed if the rats don't get it. A couple of cabbages, some sweet potatoes and pigeon peas at the back there. The pigeon peas will impart nitrogen. The sun won't get blocked because we kind of go overhead like that, so we won't get any shade from the pigeon peas. There'll be mulch and we'll be able to eat the crop from it. Yeah, it's a really good permaculture plant. I'll go into that in another video. And at the front here, I've got some peanuts, which may not grow in my climate. We'll see. They need about 5 months of heat. I did get them in the ground, or sorry, in a pot in my hothouse just before spring, I believe, and they're doing really well. Whether we get enough heat here for them to really produce, I'm not really sure. And then I've got a few herbs. This is valerian and a few flowers. I can't remember what they all are, but I think this is heal all, something else. And I've planted some marigolds direct in the ground there, so hopefully that will be nice and pretty. A few more garlics. These ones are a late harvest one. They should be ready to harvest in about January, February, and these ones can be stored for 12 months, so that's why I grow them. A few more tomatoes here in the front. This morning I finished digging out another row of garlic, so I'll be composting that later and putting some straw on. I'm putting some more tomatoes in and then some more Italian late garlic, so I reckon about a month on that and it should be out of the ground. We have more tomatoes in here. They are hard to see, sorry, but they're there and they're growing nicely. I'm very happy with the growth rate on those. And then here I've got about 49 cucumbers, a mix of pickling and salad cucumbers, and they're starting to put out flowers and hopefully we'll have some fruit set in a few weeks. Really looking forward to those. They were delicious last year and very prolific. And then here I've got, let's turn around, I've got rosella, which I can use in teas, one more pigeon pea, rosella and okra. And then I alternate them to the end of this wire fence. And then here in this area I'm going to plant some of my cherry tomatoes. Some of my compost, which I'm trying to spread. I want to spread the rest of it in my garlic patches, so that's why it's in the bins, just to store it. The rest has been spread everywhere. Some more tomatoes in here, a couple more brassicas. The last down here, and then I've got chilies in this area, tomatillos there. I've got Jerusalem artichokes and sunflowers, and further along I have yacons, some flowers in the front here, and some more chilies in this bed. eggplants, more tomatillos, and capsicums in this bed here. And then some more tomatoes. So these ones are bush tomatoes, which is why I planted them here. Shouldn't technically have to stake them, but from my experience of last year, they still needed a little bit of staking, but they don't get as big. Some gladioles. I've got a flower spike there, which is so exciting. And I think a dahlia behind it, which is also really exciting. A few of my broccoli. So I planted this broccoli a couple of years ago. It produced broccoli for me, and I cut it down. I prefer not to pull things out, so I just cut it off at the stalk down at the base, and it re-sprouted. And so I've been getting the sprouting broccoli now from it, and that's happened to me for a couple of years now. So I really enjoy that method. There's another couple over here that I did the same thing with, and let's move around so you don't see my shadow, but I've got some fruity sage, some rhubarb, and some sage in the middle here because it's not a double reach bed, it's a little bit bigger, and I'd rather not walk on it even though I am standing on it now. And some overwintered chilies that were in my hothouse and I planted in the front here. Then I've got some pot dahlias, which are really dwarf ones, but the bees love them, so that's why they're there. And then up this arch I'll be planting tromboncino, which is already in the ground and starting to go crazy. So yeah, so that's my garden, guys. I hope you enjoyed the tour. It's certainly different to how it looked last month. It's really fun to see the change and the growth in just a short amount of time, especially being here every day. You don't really notice it until you look back on photos and you're like, oh wow, that was only a few weeks ago, and now things are looking like a bit of a jungle, especially upstairs. So I hope you enjoyed the tour, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, guys.